Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
You're watching.
We're watching. You're watching Fanboy.
Fanboy. Fanboy.
Fanboy.
Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
Malcolm Ingram, we are talking today about your documentary Clerk, based on the ultimate clerk himself, Kevin Smith. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I am thrilled to be talking to you. You know, the documentary is fantastic. I got a screener when it was at South by Southwest a while ago, and now I'm looking forward to the bonus features on the Blu-ray. So you're doing something right.
Bonus features are killer. Yeah. It's so much pressure doing bonus features for anything that involves Kevin, because he's so legendary for having great, like he's great at putting this stuff together. So it was important that we kind of gave something that was worthy.
You know, before we get into the whole Kevin thing, as soon as you turned the camera on, I realized you were wearing a Kiss t-shirt. Who's your favorite member of the Kiss Army?
Who's my favorite member in Kiss?
In Kiss? And yeah, well, let's go with Kiss, and then what's your favorite Kiss Army memory?
I mean, I did the thing where me and my brother mailed away for the Kiss Army. My brother got to keep all of the gear. Like you got a patch. Who's my member? You know what? Like, it's kind of, I just saw them again, like in 2019, and so I couldn't get anybody to go. I went by myself. Like nobody would go. You know what? Like I love the four originals, and I love them all equally. And I think that they're all like, they're just such a dynamic. It's just, that's the Kiss I like to remember. I used to have a real problem with Gene Simmons, but it seems he's really had he seems to have had a real change of the person he is. He seems to have had a real come to Jesus moment, come to the Lord moment. He's been a lot of podcasts, and he's been really interesting to hear. And I always loved Paul Stanley. Like, Paul Stanley is amazing. So yeah, I like them all. I mean, my favorite record, I would say probably Dress to Kill and Destroyer.
I dig it.
And Alive.
Alive is fantastic. You know, I love Peter, but my favorite album is probably Creatures of the Night. Really?
You're one of them guys.
Yeah.
At least you're not one of them elder guys. The elder guys are
the elder guys are fun.
Like, Creatures of the Night, huh? Like, that's like, I remember, like, Death is the first song. I remember sitting there. I had a little machine that played single, 45s. And I sat there with the 45 to Beth, and I wrote out the whole lyric. So to this day, Beth, you call it, but I know that was the first song that I knew, although I've never done karaoke, because it's not, my voice is better for more buffoonish songs than Beth.
Well, how about for the sequel to the documentary of Clerk, you and Kevin do a duet of Beth?
I don't think people would give a shit. Maybe you would, though. That'd be enough.
Listen, I care enough to talk to you about Kiss and Kevin Smith, so we're on the right track today.
There you go.
Yeah. How do you pitch Kevin an idea of doing a documentary about himself?
Tricking him.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Fucking flat, I tricked him. I was drunk on alcohol. It's all a true story. I was in Florida. We were in Sarasota, and Kevin would go down there to this Barnum College, and he was shooting that movie. Like, he was in Sarasota, Florida, and I went down. I usually tag along, just because it's, it's fun. But I went down, and he wanted me to he wanted me to write a book. Like, somebody approached me about doing a book, and I was like, well, if we're doing a book, we should film it and make a documentary, because I'm a documentarian. So I'm like, Well, if we're gonna talk to these people, we might as well film it. If we're gonna film it, we might as well make a documentary. That was all the logic I came up. Like Kevin had left, and I was really drunk, sitting on his fancy patio at the Ritz-Carlton, like downtown Sarasota. And I remember looking over the city of Sarasota, drunk, and I convinced. And through text, I was like, "Kevin, we should make a documentary." And I guess Kevin was like in the air, like, so I pitched him drunk through text.
And did it come out slurred in the text too?
No, that would have been awesome though. And maybe if he knew I was drunk, like, what? I'm not listening to this madman. It's funny, I've never told that story before. So you got to hear first. I pitched making this documentary drunk on a patio at the Ritz-Carlton, Sarasota, Florida. Pow!
You know, as all great inventions and ingenuity comes with a bit of intoxication, you know, you were able to do that with Clerk. The Persians used to say, you have to debate twice, first intoxicated and second sober, to see if the ideas stay true to their origins.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot. I think that's Persians are wise people, because I think a lot of ideas, like, look, a lot of creative types, a lot of my favorite writers, like from Hemingway to Hunter S. You know, they were imbibers. I think it's part of a creative thing. Although it's really interesting. I just started. I have ADHD. Suffered it for all my life, and then I just went through a series of tests, but I'm too, like, the medication is an amphetamine. It's that Trump thing. What is it? The pill that Trump takes.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Adderall.
Okay.
Adderall. So all of a sudden, like, I've started taking Adderall for my ADHD, and I'm like, it's kind of like, I don't have much interest in drinking and stuff anymore. And I'm like, if there was treatment for things like AD&D and other mental illnesses earlier on, would we have such geniuses? But, like, basically, if Hunter S. Thompson some kind of medication that would kind of leaven his moods, would he still have that creative spark? I've gotten way tangential. I apologize.
Right. Listen, it's not a thin line; it's a dotted line between genius and madness.
Fair enough.
Now, with doing Clerk and going through not only archival footage, but knowing Kevin personally and pitching him the documentary in a state of intoxication, now you have to go through his friends and go, "Hey, talk about Kevin and tell us, you know, what's going on with his life." You know, his view on Catholicism when he was younger versus what it is now, male companionship, because the idea of male friendship has kind of devolved, and there's no longer that male intimacy of friends exchanging with each other and commiserating over joint suffering or being each other's support. It's kind of like just a surface level relationship.
Here's what happens, and this is something that I've realized. And it's happened full force. And I don't know if it's because of the pandemic and stuff, but, and I'm a gay dude, so it's like I always have that, like, you never lose your friends, your gay friends, because essentially, but like for straight people, like, all life takes over. You have kids, you have a job, like, it just becomes so much that you just can't maintain. Like, if you're going to go out, you know, you're going to go out with your family, you're going to do all that. But what I found lately is that all my friends, their kids have grown up, and now I'm starting to hear from them again, like after 20 years. And it's really interesting because it's like it all happened at the same time, where, like, in the past year, I've just been hearing and talking to people that I haven't talked to in literally 20 years. And it's just because they went off and what was that? They went off and, like, found, you know, built their families and stuff. And now the kids are off at university and they're just kind of like, you know,
who am I? Who was I? Type deal.
Well, on top of that, they just have a lot of time on their hands, right? Because it's just like, you know, without, like there's only so much golf you could play, I imagine. Like, and video games, like the funny thing about video games is that like a lot of guys I know who played video games when they were younger, like when you got kids, you can't play video, like you can't play video games. And video games are so, like, if you put a video game controller in my hand right now and like put me on a game, I would just be like, what is this madness? Like the development of video games has been incredible. Right. And like, it's just something that, so instead they just go and, hang out. They like basically like, tonight I'm going to go hang out with an old friend, that I haven't seen in a very long time. It's funny. It's kind of it's how it evolves. And I don't know if it's how it's always been. Like the pandemic was a big thing. Like everybody got a little lonely in the pandemic, and now the pandemic's over. People are like, they want to hang out more. That's what I find anyway.
I dig it. When you're a documentarian, and in every documentary a filmmaker makes, they not only learn something new about the subject or have a different perspective on the subject where it goes beyond friendship and into the subject matter itself, but you also learn something new about yourself. In making Clerk, what did you learn about Malcolm as opposed to your relationship with Kevin, and what did you learn about Kevin?
I don't like making documentaries with my friends. What did I learn? Honestly, it wasn't a deep dive into myself. It wasn't. The thing about this documentary is that if I'm going to be very honest, it had its challenges, but it wasn't as challenging as like Small Town Gay Bar or something like that. Like this was the intention of it was always to be, like I knew it couldn't be exhaustive. Kevin has such an incredible, like there's so many things that we didn't talk about that I would have loved to talk about, but like you got only so much time. Like I would have loved to have made a mini series, and like I would love to do an hour on that whole Too Fat to Fly thing, which I find fascinating. And like, but you like, so essentially, I think this is more of I see this as a Kevin Smith primer. It's not an exhaustive piece. It's, if you don't know who Kevin Smith is, it's going to tell you everything you need to know. And if you're a fan, I tried to throw enough fun stuff in there that even if you've heard a lot of the stories before, you haven't maybe heard it from the person. But I mean, like there's some stuff in there that makes me like Walt. I think there's moments with Walt that just make me laugh. I think Walt's a very naturally funny person. And I think that like when I'm talking to Walt, and Walt is realizing that, I'm like, no, Kevin's been smoking pot every day for the past, 15 years. And Walt was like, that, and literally on camera, he's like, that can't be real. I'm like, no, he has. And like Walt had no idea. And like that realization on camera, like he was just like, that's fucked up. Like those are the moments I loved in the movie.
Is there any, since you said you learned that you don't want to make documentaries about your friends, sometimes
I said that as a joke.
Well, I know, but like it's leading into my next question. Sometimes there's raw moments that you're like, this would be perfect for the documentary, but it could also be an expose in their life that they might not want to fully reveal. Is there that tug of war between professionalism and personalism where you're like, maybe I shouldn't put this in the film for their personal privacy, or I should because that's part of the art itself?
It's a very good question. I didn't film any, like there's nothing that I have on film that I shouldn't have used. I know I know that the relationship with Jeff Anderson is rocky. It isn't now, but like historical, and I don't think I'm telling anything that's new. But like traditionally, they've had a really kind of complicated relationship. And I think that if I was making a different documentary, I would have really pursued him. but in the nature of the documentary, it just would have grounded to a halt, because it would, like, essentially it would have gotten into a lot of things that would have eaten up a lot of time, and it wasn't really like again, I was making more of an overall kind of look at his career, and basically I think that there's certain things that I just stayed away from because they would take up so much time. If I was doing like a 12-part miniseries on Kevin, there's so much more that I could have got into, but like there's no scandal or anything that I intentionally avoided. Like, ironically, the one thing about it is when we were doing the movie, I was like, I don't want to talk about Harvey Weinstein in this. I just said, like, because I feel to properly talk about Harvey Weinstein, it's a very serious subject, and I don't want to just breeze over it. Because again, the nature of this documentary is we don't get down deep in anything. It's a primer. And like, so, and Kevin agreed initially, but then Kevin became very adamant about the fact that he did get to talk about Harvey Weinstein in it. And I felt kind of, taken aback because we'd agreed that we weren't. And I might have asked people different questions and had geared things more around something. But instead we kind of, Kevin did a monologue about Harvey at the ending. And we fought about that for a year. We didn't talk for a year. So me and Kevin went to battle. Like, I didn't just lay over on anything, and like, my integrity, whatever that's worth. But like, I was just like, well, no, it was something I really wanted to stick to. I was like, if we're gonna even bring up Harvey Weinstein in this movie, like, there's a lot there. But
there's also that dichotomy of how this man is a monster, but there's also that I have to thank this person also for kicking my career off. So it's this. But
it's not even that. Like it's not even that. It's just like, this man's a monster. I get it. We all know that he's a monster, but it's just like, he was just Kevin's boss. They weren't even social. Like, I was around. That's the thing. I was around the whole fucking time. Like, I know that Harvey Weinstein is a fucking cocksucker and is one of the worst people I ever met. I saw the way he talked to assistants. He was a fucking miserable cunt to be around, without a doubt. Harvey Weinstein, absolute prick. I didn't know he was raping people. Nobody knew that he was raping. We didn't know how disgusting it was. And anybody who says they did is lying or should have spoke up earlier. But I'm just kind of like, I know that, like, and it's just kind of like, it's like, how responsible are people for their fucking bosses? You know what I mean? It's just like, how responsible. Like, my whole thing about it is, I feel it's sensationalistic to kind of keep talking about this man. It's kind of like, he's a piece of shit. Move on. Like, he doesn't deserve our time. He doesn't deserve to become, like, to keep making his way. Like, let's stop talking about him. That's the punishment. Like, that's the true punishment, is that he's just forgotten. And people should realize that that's, instead of fucking focusing and obsessing over these fucking, like, disgusting people, just forget them. Just leave them out. Leave them out of the story. Like, don't give them any, don't give them any weight, any attention, because that just keeps it going. Like, all press is good press. As long as he's still part of the conversation, he still matters. And you know what? Right now, Harvey Weinstein doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't matter at all.
Right. And like you said, the punishment is the fact that someone that wanted to be recognized for their work efforts and be immortalized, being erased from history, is the biggest tragedy for them.
That's it. Like, it's just like fucking, like, he's obviously a very vain man. I mean, he named the company after his parents and all that stuff. It's just like, the biggest punishment is just to fucking just forget him. Just leave him out of the conversation. He doesn't need to be there. there's no part of Clerk. Like, I understand that Kevin felt the need to say his piece. I understand, because basically, oh, Harvey Weinstein. So I get it. But as a filmmaker, I was like, fuck Harvey Weinstein. I don't want to give him space in my film, because it's just more fuel for that fucking ridiculous fire. He's a horrendous man. Anybody who met him, like, and the sad thing is that there are some really great employees at Miramax that work really hard. You know what I mean? Like, that was a really hard job, especially working under that man. But like, I met a lot of wonderful people at Miramax who now, like, everything is just so fucking tainted. And these people worked very hard under very hard conditions. Like, they weren't fucking coal miners, but like, working at Miramax was not an easy job. Working in Harvey Weinstein was not an easy job. This man was a fucking lunatic. So, like, it's sad that like that whole, like, it's one of the greatest periods in cinema. It's one of the most influential, important periods of cinema. And like, can we just allow it, that it existed, that it exists, it still exists, always will exist? Let's forget the man and like, let's praise the work. It's not like a situation that's complicated like a Roman Polanski or a Woody Allen, where basically the artist himself is charged of a crime. It's literally association, and it's such a tangential association. Like, he gave Kevin money to make his films, period.
Right.
Like, he was the boss. But Harvey Weinstein, fucking, like, is there anybody in fucking Hollywood that wasn't touched by Harvey Weinstein? Like, you go back and look, like, everybody from Meryl Streep, everybody stood on that stage and thanked that bastard. And it's not like nobody knew he was a bastard. You know what I mean? He was a bastard. But like, the creme de la creme, if you go on YouTube and see the amount of people thanking Harvey Weinstein before, you know, it's just like everybody. But everybody knew he was a prick. So it is what it is, man.
Malcolm, I love the mic drop, but I got the one question warning, so it's a two-parter. The first one is, what would you have replaced the Harvey Weinstein conversation that Kevin had in there with a different story? And also, where can we purchase the DVD and the signed copies? And, you know, as well as finding you on social media.
I feel the movie runs too long, so I wouldn't replace it with anything. Okay. But here's the thing. I'll give credit where credit is due. Kevin, I wasn't a filmmaker. I as a filmmaker wasn't good enough to have anything to do with that being the part where he does talk about Harvey in the movie. That is truly a collaboration between Kevin and my editor. My editor was in the room. We did it in Los Angeles. We did it a year after the film was wrapped. And basically, like, we set up the camera, and I just said, okay, go. And I walked away, and Kevin did his piece. And I had no idea where we'd put it. The editor found the perfect spot to do it. So the fact that, and I think it works, and I understand why Kevin didn't want it in. I really do. But I think that like between Kevin and my editor, they found the perfect spot for it, and it worked out. And I can't take any credit for that at all. But I wouldn't replace with anything because the movie was running long. And what was the second question?
Where can we purchase the DVD? Because I know signed copies are available.
Mercantileinstinct.com. Like, distribution is fucking weird lately, and like we had a lot of problems getting the movie out there. Like, he's got a base. It's just it just seemed like simple math, but it was really funny. So we just decided to open our own distribution company up. We just thought, fuck it. Like, let's put our money where our mouth is. Like, let's put this out ourselves. And so that's what we did. And it's been wonderful. Like, the feedback's been great. People like the Blu-ray. And I'm going to put out, like, I have some other movies that I haven't put out. And then maybe if we kind of build this, we could, put other people's movies out. So now my mind is off making them. I'm an old man now. Nobody here wants to know what I think. But, like, I've learned a lot. So I'm kind of tipping my hat at distribution, and I would like to but mom always wanted me to be a teacher, so I would like to kind of help young filmmakers get movies made and get them out there. That would be my dream.
I dig it. Malcolm, thank you so much. Clerk is available.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Listen, next time you come out to California, let's go grab some coffee and hang out for a bit.
I'm all for it, sir.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, rock and roll, brother.
You got it. Take care.